Hello, this is Ignacy Trzewiczek, Portal Games, and this is me answering the questions for the interview. So here are my answers for your questions. How are you spending your time in a lockdown period? Playing board games are helping you to find boredom. I am working here from my home, so now I'm in a home office mode. I do play quite a big number of board games these days. I had behind me there was a huge pile of the games on my shelf of shame. So on the game that I was supposed to play, and for months or weeks I haven't played them. So now, as you can see, this shelf is almost empty. I played most of these games. So yes, I do enjoy my time playing board games with my wife and my family. I do read a lot these days and watch some TV shows. So I'm doing well. Thank you. I'm doing well, and everybody's healthy here and my family. The second question, Portal Games launched Stay at Home and Play for Free campaign to help people cope with the quarantine while having fun. Does it come from your personal experience? We do believe that there is so many people who wanted to try some of our games and didn't have a chance to do that before, us with my shelf of shame. So that's why we try to encourage them to give them some free content. So that's why you can play Detective, this famous award-winning best-selling detective game, for free with the Suburbia case. You have additional solo scenarios for Roll and Ride. You have additional solo scenarios for Empires of the North. So yes, we try to keep you busy. We try to keep you entertained. This is what we are doing here in Portal Games. We are the company that we believe we are working in the entertainment industry, and I perceive books, movies, and games as a one big family of ideas and activities we do for spending our free time. So yes. Third question, putting aside your titles as designer or publisher, what games are you putting on the table most frequently, and who do you like playing with? I play with my wife mostly. So this is the most of my games at home with my wife, and we love to play rather complex either card games or Euro games. So Underwater Cities, amazing game. Lewis and Clark, amazing game. Tolkien, amazing games, and I could go on and on and on. As for my most played game, as for now, is Arkham Horror. Living card game. I have all the expansions. I play all these campaigns, and this is the game I play alone in a solo variant. So for my solo gaming, Arkham Horror. For other gaming with my wife, rather complex but thematic games. Game designer activity. Many game designers experiment difficulties in this period to work on their prototypes due to the lack of testers groups and conventions. Are you facing this problem issue in this period? Yes, I do. I mean, maybe not personally, because at this very moment I have no prototype I would work for. So I'm in the time of designing, writing Vienna Connection, a new game in the line of detective. So I don't need the playtesters. I need to just have a time to write and right, because it's a storytelling game. But my team at Portal Games, my developers team, is struggling without the chance to have playtesters in the office. So yes, we are using Tabletopia website to connect and to playtest the new product. So yes, this is a difficult time indeed. Anyway, we believe game designing is a very creative activity. Maybe a period so introspective as the actual one could give you, the game designer, the opportunity to better focus himself on his activity. We will see if after these weeks I will come up with a new game. As I said, at this very point, I'm not working on any new prototypes except the Vienna Connection, and this one is basically writing new pieces of the story. Somewhere on the web, we read that you could not say among the titles you have worked on what you prefer, because everyone has their own emotional baggage. Here we want to ask you for a different question. What do you think is the title of which you were most satisfied with the response of the audience? Of course, Detective is the game that blew my mind in terms of the feedback. Number of people who contacted me personally, either by email, either by Facebook message, either by Geek Mail on Board Game Geek, to just leave the message that they had a great time, they had a blast with their friends, solving the case, having this big mind map, and enjoying their time. That's mind blowing. And for many games I designed. That is Robinson Crusoe, that is Imperial Settlers, that is Empire of the North, and many other. I had a great feedback. Gamers are very kind for me. But Detective was absolutely stunning, with you gamers sharing with me stories from your games, sharing pictures of your mind maps. That was very kind, and it keeps going. Like I received on constant basis new photos of your game rooms with all these mind maps of crimes solved. On the contrary, is there a title you particularly cared about that was not appreciated, while a title of which you were not totally convinced within yourself instead of met the favors of the critics? So, of course, the famous example is the game called First Martians. This is the game I spent 3 years designing. This is one of the biggest, more complex, more involving, engaging, and amazing games, in my opinion. And it didn't find the audience. It was too difficult, too complex. It was too scientific. Not enough adventures and crazy stuff going, too much science and serious hard science fiction theme, and the reviews were very bad for this game, and it was 3 years of my life. It was, the, as I said, the longest, the biggest, the most complex game I ever designed, and unfortunately all these 3 years of my life faced very bad feedback from the players. On your blog, Board Games Tell Stories, you report your design philosophy. Here you emphasize how important it is to bring the player in, making him feel that what he is doing is real. Are there any other tricks of the trade that you would like to share with us for the success of a title? Of course, as I always say on different seminars for the young designers, there are different advices from Stefan Feld, there are different advices from Rainer Knizia, there are different advices from Isaac Children, there are different advices from Rob Deview. Everybody design in a different way, and everybody is looking for a different outcome. I love storytelling games. I love games that tell stories. So that's why if we reach here, like wherever you reach, wherever you look in my room, in my house, there are books. Like I love books. I'm a bookworm. And then when I design games here, when I design games, I design like telling a story, and I want you to live this story. So my trick of trade is read books. Read books. This is how you get inspiration. This is how you get all these ideas for the events, for adventures, for characters, for places. So reading is quite a hobby for me. Since we got into the subject, can you tell us something about your book inspired by your blog? So I published 2 books called Board Games That Tell Stories. You can find them on Amazon.com, and the third book is in the works, so it will be released this year or next year. We'll see. And yes, I run a blog called boardgamesthatellstories.com, and in this blog on a regular basis I publish new articles about game design, about my adventures, about my philosophy, about the anecdotes from the playtesting and all kind of stuff. There are hundreds of articles on this blog, so you can check it out. This is me sharing my passion. This is me sharing my joy of doing what I do, that is living with board games. Details on Detective. Detective defines itself as a modern crime board game without a doubt. The crime and spy scenario is fascinating as it is complex. For example, identify key elements and insert clues in the right places to involve players in the story. The idea of this game comes from your particular interest in the investigation novel genre. More generally, does the theme and setting of your games take inspiration from your specific interest? Yes, that is true. The game Robinson Crusoe is obviously inspired by this amazing game. I can show you. I'm a huge fan of Robinson Crusoe. This is the copy of the book I have at my home. This is almost 200 old book. So I'm a huge fan of this novel, and it was always my dream to design a game inspired by this novel. The game Imperial Settlers, of course, inspired by the video game The Settlers, released back then in the 90s when I was in the high school, when I was playing video games like crazy, and this is one of the most epic games of my childhood. The game Detective, of course, inspired by the amazing TV crime shows like The True Detective from HBO, for instance. So yes, as I said, I'm reading books. I'm getting this inspiration from all these different stories. The game called Stronghold is inspired directly by the novel The Legend by David Gemmell. So yes, my inspiration is my books and movies. In other interviews, we have read that you consider worker placement a brilliant engine for board games. Detective is a cooperative game. It was difficult to move away from individualism, who typically has a worker placement game. The accumulated experience with Robinson Crusoe has been useful. Yes, I'm learning with all every single design I do. With detective, we are not having actions. This is a storytelling game. We are just moving our pawn on the map, and this is how we decided to make an action. So if you want to examine something, we go to the laboratory. If you want to check the archives, we go to the courthouse. So this is like a super simple way of using a worker placement mechanism. But yes, it is true. Most, if not all, games I design are worker placement mechanism based, and I love this mechanism. It's very simple. It's very easy to understand. It's very super simple. So yeah, this is what I do in design in terms of the mechanism. On Portal Games, you report the detective rulebook is more a user manual to fully appreciate the game without burning the cases. We found it useful. You say the title can provide 15 hours of fun. Do you find it proportionate to the shelf price? I think that if you look at the shelf price and compare how much time you spend with the game, I think this is absolutely one of the cheapest games on the market, and it is super cheap compared to the cinema tickets, to the concert tickets, to the if you are talking about sports, for example, for the football ticket, this is the cheapest way to enjoy something, to be entertained, and there is no way you can buy a ticket for the music concert for 50 euros, and these tickets are much more expensive, and the concert lasts 2 hours. And here you have 15 hours, and the price is cheaper. The same with the football. If you go to the stadium, you will pay euros for the ticket. You have 1 hour and 30 minutes of enjoyment. Here you have a 15 hours. So in my opinion, detective is one of the cheapest way to get entertained. Compared to the Forerunner, Sherlock Holmes Detective is more board game and less book game. Do you think that somehow this component introduces a replay value? We started designing and developing a detective with Sherlock Holmes in mind. I love the game. And we were looking what we want to improve, what we want to change, what we want to fix in a Sherlock Holmes, and that's how we came up with the detective. So detective, in my opinion, is a better board game, as you mentioned in the question, is a game. It has a rule. So yes, absolutely. I think that this is more a board game, and yes, I believe that having these cards and having the way that you look at the deck and you will see only half of the deck when you play, and the other half you will never see. One time, after a few months, after you finish the whole campaign, you can play again with different group or the same group and try to find all these different cards, all the different plots, all the different clues, and have a great time. So yes, I do believe you can play detective more than one time, not 10 times, but 2 times easily. I played it myself, my friends, after finishing design, and I had a great time. So yes, I believe there is some replay value in the game. In a board game as detective, how important are the graphics sector and components to achieve the involvement of the player, which repose in your design philosophy? Yes, I work very closely with the artwork department in my company, and I accept the proofs all over the time. And this is very important. The look of the Antar's website, it was weeks of discussion with the artwork department. The look of every single non-player character, every single witness, when we put pictures in the Antar's website, if we have some photos from the crime scene that people will find, there is a ton of consultation and work along with the artwork department. So the story, as it is designed, as it is invented, as it is created, has to be presented exactly in that way in terms of the artwork. So yeah, a ton of hours spent together with the artwork department. The title Brainwave is the Antares database, which also allows you to specialize the roles around the table, identifying a database manager. On the other hand, the continuous insertion of codes and the links interrupts the flow of the game. Have you worked hard to find the right compromise? Well, no. As for our playtesting, we saw it very fluid, especially if you play 3 or 4 play games. people are reading cards, people are making notes, people are debating, and one of the players is this hacker or this internet person who is typing things. So this is the one of you who loves sitting at the computer, and we didn't notice any distraction and interruption in the board game. They are discussion, they are discussing, they are having fun, they are debating, and one of them is just putting numbers inside and looking if he can find something. So not such a problem in our playtesting. And as I read the feedback, as I saw reviews, everybody is rather praising the way the website works. Although Volce Giocosa is suspicious towards expansions, which is often seen as the Godfather Part 3, that is, a commercial operation for this game, they seem sacrosanct. How do you plan to follow the game with the future expansions? I wrote an article on my blog last week. It was called The Platform, and Detective, in my opinion, is a Netflix. If you have a Netflix and if you go to the Netflix every single weekend to watch a new movie, you buy a Detective and you have this platform to see new stories, to experience new stories every other weekend, every other month. So we will continue to support the new movies, new stories, as Netflix does, as Disney Plus does, as Hulu does, as HBO does. Detective is a platform for experiences. The Detective is a platform to watch new movies, that is to play new stories. So I definitely see more and more expansions coming, more stories, and I do believe that if you like Netflix and if you like HBO and if you liked Game of Thrones season 1, Game of Thrones season 2, Game of Thrones season 3, Game of Thrones season 4, and you enjoy all of this, and then you switch and you watch Westworld, and then you switch, you watch different series and different TV show. This is exactly with the Detective. You can play Detective the base game, you can play Detective season 1, you can play Detective LA Crimes, you can play Detective Vienna Connection, and there are all these different stories. And maybe you don't like the spy games, spice genre, so you will not play Vienna Connection, but you love 80s, so you will play LA Crimes. Or maybe you like 80s and don't like that. So Detective is a platform. We will release a ton of different stories for you to enjoy, and you will be just browsing them like in a Netflix, choosing which stories you want to enjoy with your friends this evening. On your blog, you propose to play again a detective, where those who already know the game can somehow make the game master of the situation. In fact, we had thought that the game would flow better with the adjuvant. In particular, it can be a good game to play via Skype. Would you like to add something? Yes, so this is exactly what you said. I read the whole article about that. How was it? After finishing the game, designing the game, about a year and a half later, when I finally missed this and I was no longer tired, I invited my friends and I told them, hey guys, we were playing the game. This is the game I designed, so I know all the bits of the story. But I will be a game master. I will be a narrator. I will be reading the cards and do the voices and do some fun for you. And you will be playing, solving the case. And it was one of the best 5 evenings of my life. It was amazing seeing the story that I already knew being played and hearing all the discussions of the players, all these debates, how they were making wrong theses, and then finally they find out what happened and they were so happy. So absolutely, if you play the detective once, you definitely should play it again with different group as a narrator. And today, when everything is shut down, when everything is closed, you can easily turn on Skype, call your family, your brother, your mother, your father, your sisters, your niece, or your friends from school, from college or from work, and tell them, hey guys, we are all stuck at home. The situation is desperate, but I'd like to offer you some few hours of fun. So I'd like to run for you game of detective. There on the Skype, you have your box of detective in front of you, so you'll be managing the board, you will be managing the tokens, and they are on the Skype, and you are reading the cards aloud. Like basically, you are reading blah 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 blah, and they are debating, they are discussing, they are thinking what happened, they are debating, deciding what to go next, and then they give you the number, and you draw another card, and you read again. So you are a game master. It's mind blowing. It's amazing. As I said, I play detective myself that way. And as I said, it was absolutely stunning experience for me to see the whole game played by my friend. So I strongly recommend, if you play the detective, do it again. Do something good for your friends, do something good for your family, give them a gift, and run a game of detective for them. Publishing world. We read that you started with role-playing games, working for a magazine, and then you decided to take the leap and found your own publishing company, wanting to stay in the world of full-time gaming. Can you tell us about those days? How determined were you, or were you afraid of not making it? This is always an important step, also from an economic point of view. Yeah, so this past year I recorded, believe it or not, 40 videos, 40. Each of them 1 hour long, believe it or not. With a history of Portal Games, discussing how it happened, how I started, how difficult it was, etc., etc. Of course, it was recorded only in Polish. Our fans in Poland appreciated a lot. The video had a ton of views, so it was very, very, very popular, and people appreciated it. And yes, that is true. The beginnings are very, very hard. Wait a minute, I need to make a pause. So back to the point. So it was very difficult. I did a seminar this past Essen, 1 hour seminar, showing some of the stories from the past. So I strongly recommend, you can find it on the Essen YouTube channel. And the whole seminar was recorded. It's a 1 hour speech, a 1 hour panel about the history of Portal Games. And yes, it was very difficult at the beginning. I had no money whatsoever. There was no market. There was no distribution whatsoever. I had to sell a car to basically survive and pay my debts for designing and publishing role-playing games. So it was very, very difficult. The big change, the big break was for me going to Essen with Hiroshima Hex in 2007, and then things start all look bright and better. But for years it was a struggle. As I said, I did a whole 40 hours material about this in Polish, but for you, for English speaking gamers and geeks, you can watch the shortened version, 1 hour version, and you can find it on YouTube, on Essen channel. One print era. Last year, with your one print era release, you captured a feature of the moment in this sector, which we were also independently discussing in the Volpe Giocosa, and which we would like to expand with you. What we find is booming market, which with the advent of new game mechanics and types is able to involve more and more people, even the most occasional ones. However, this turbo publishing, which floods the market with every new titles, means that even the best ones get lost in the chaos. Perhaps in the end, the more played titles is not the best one, but the best sponsored one. The phenomenon is certainly not facilitated by the time to market, which takes from 18 to 20 weeks following your estimation. This time is enough for the public to become colder and to intersculate with the new releases. All this long preamble for the following considerations. Do you share with us that we are facing an expanding market? What do you think, as an expert, are the reasons? So the market is growing, that's for sure. We see this in the data. There's more and more gamers. The huge powerful horse that is Asmodee is bringing all these new gamers with their marketing reach, and these new gamers learning about these amazing games like Ticket to Ride, like Doble, like Catan, etc., etc. So market is growing, but of course, because it is so easy these days to be part of this market, you're just having idea for the game, you're commissioning some art, and then you go for the Kickstarter, and your game can hit the market. The number of new titles is terrifying. It is too many games. So we are in this very difficult situation when everybody is excited, everybody is optimistic about the growth of the industry. But besides the new gamers, there's also more and more titles. And at this point, we are facing the lack of the shelf space, the lack of the focus from the retailers. Retailers have no clue what they are selling at this point. There's so many titles, so many sell sheets to analyze, so many information about the new product. So at this point, nobody is understanding what's happening. And We will see what will happen. This year is very difficult because of the coronavirus, so we will see how it will change in the industry. But we are facing a huge problem. Of course, there are new gamers, but the number of titles released make it impossible to analyze and to sell to the retailers. There is too many games released every single day, every single week, that the retailers cannot have them in the offer, and therefore they are not selling them, and therefore there's a problem. The increased number of the new publications per year, can it be related to a simplified process? Yes, this is exactly what I said, that it is easier now. All these Chinese companies are so helpful for you to create the board game. So if you have only prototype, they will help you with the DTP, they will help you with the artwork. Of course, you can find the artwork just going to the Facebook groups of people who are giving you advices how to find the artwork for the game, how to find playtesters, etc., etc. So basically, for anybody, it is so easy now to become the board game publisher. That is so many independent companies, that's many Kickstarter campaigns, and therefore that many new titles on the market. Are we facing a speculative bubble, or at least a passing inflation destined to the end? If yes, can you predict when and why? So of course, I don't know what will happen. The coronavirus is changing everything. I predicted last year in my podcast, Board Games Insider, that there will be some going out of the business situations. Luckily, nothing bad happened, and all the companies survived. We were thinking that it may happen this year or maybe next year, but yes, I think there's too many companies, too many titles, not enough shelf space for everybody. So we will see. Will reprints be possible by correcting the time to market, perhaps avoiding printing in China? As for now, my company Portal Games in Poland is refusing to do any reprints unless the game is extremely popular. We are living in a very difficult times, too many titles as we said, so if the game is selling good, that's cool, and we are not doing reprint. The game has to be mind-blowingly successful to deserve a reprint, so all the good games, even the great games, have only one print, and that's it. And for Polish market, to give you some ideas, the great game like Photosynthesis, amazing game, we didn't decide to do a reprint. So this is one of the examples of the great titles that we refuse to reprint because of the shelf space, because of that flow of the new titles and the hype. Plans for the future, the classic question without which an interview cannot be closed. Future projects as publisher and game designer. As I said, at this point I'm working on the Vienna Connection. This is the new game in the detective line. It has a different rules, it has a different mechanism, but basically it is once again a storytelling game in which you are a spy in 80s and you're fighting KGB agents. So this is what I'm doing, and my development team is now playing with different ideas for the new games. All the games that were supposed to be released this year, that is expansion for Imperial Settlers, Rise of the Empires, is already printed. Dig Deeper expansion for Detective already printed. Season 1 for Detective already printed. So all the titles that we were for this year are ready, and now my team is slowly preparing for the next year. As I said, I'm working on the Vienna Connection, and my team is doing all different projects that are not announced because we don't know which of these projects will go to the print. So you as a gamer should expect as I said, Rise of the Empires for Imperial Settlers, Detective Season 1, amazing version of Detective, the three separate cases. And for the next year, we will see what will happen in a couple of months. At this point, we are focusing on the coronavirus situation and making all of us in the company and our families safe. Thank you for the interview. Stay safe, stay well. Greeting from Poland. Greetings to my publisher in Italy, Pendragon, who is doing amazing job with Detective. So greetings from Poland. Take care. Thank you. Bye bye.